person, persona, personal, personal, personality, personality. Aloha, friends. Does the personality survive death? Death of the body, mind? I think this bears out more of how the ego operates. I think the more we come to understand how the ego operates, and the fact that that is actually not us, it really helps to clarify who and what is us. But the ego would think, well, I've got my personality. This is if it believes in an afterlife. If the ego just thinks, I am a personality, and it dies with me when I die. Like sort of an atheistic view, which is really not wrong, I mean, in this scenario, because he's actually right about that. If all self was an egoic personality, then it's going to die with the body-mind. So an atheist would be correct in that thinking. But what he would be missing is that, namely, he wasn't the ego and its personality. But let's get into this a little bit about this personality aspect of the self. And I would venture to say that you have a fully, let us say, functioning, existing personality prior to incarnation, pardon me, as a human. So let's say it simply, back home, you have a personality. Okay? And when we come into this illusion, dream, world, earth, bodies, experience, simulation, when we come into this, we're bringing a certain amount of our consciousness with us, and I believe that with that consciousness comes personality. So it's again a paradox, because on the one hand, you're not really a personality and a persona and a person, but for the sake of this illusion, for the sake of your time in this classroom, you do have one. So which is it? You know, it's the paradox. Which is it? Well, it's not either or. It's both. And We could probably also argue that it's neither. Again, it all depends on your perception, how you are perceiving everything, internally and externally. And you'll become a lot more accurate when you realize, and you may think that you realize it even. We can think that we see. The intellect thinks that because it can think about something and grasp whatever that something is, that it then, let us say, possesses that. But it does not possess that. It has merely thought about it. It has merely created a place in the mind to house that knowledge. But to truly get it is to be it. So until you've become that which you think you understand intellectually, then you've just got a concept or an idea. You can intellectually maybe understand what self-realization is and what it means, but have not yet self-realized, and so therefore have no idea what it really is to be it, because it has to be experienced in order to know. See, that's the difference in knowing and knowing about. And so the ego is always right there, because the mind, right, is always right there. And we've become so used to listening to our minds, thinking that is not only normal, and it is normal, but at the same time it's not normal. The paradoxes never stop with this realization stuff. It is normal to use the mind in everyday life. It is not normal to be used by the mind in everyday life. Do you see the difference? It makes a great servant, but a terrible boss or master. Move deeper into the awareness. Like even right now, hopefully you're in a place right now where you can. Or maybe watch this later in a quiet, undistracted place where you really can get in the moment and get in this moment, get into this frequency, get into the depth of your own awareness, and you'll begin to see you'll begin to see the differences between the body-mind and the conscious perception. And see, we call that the true self, right? The true you. And so I think sometimes people think that, well, when I self-realize, or I become my true self, then everything's gonna be so vastly different. See, it's always a paradox, because on the one hand it is vastly different. But on another hand, it's still very much the same or similar. In other words, in the very same place that, let us say, you were depressed and felt like your life had become sort of mundane and almost pointless. In the very same place, you could also realize that everything in that mundane, seemingly boring, sort of insignificant life that you were judging your own life and coming to that conclusion about your own life, right? You could be in the same exact place and realize, wow, there's so much beauty in that mundaneness that I wasn't seeing. There's so much to be gleaned in the boredom, if you will. There is so much to be heard in the silence. There is still feeling in the midst of numbness. The wisdom and experience you gained by going through that pain that you would have it no other way. So the majority of self is still at home. Never left. Never left. I'm so glad now that video games and virtual reality games were created. Granted, in the Matrix, it's mainly being used for the continuation of the ego self to think that it is real. But I'm so glad that they were created, because without their creation, it might not be so readily grasped by the intellect to compare this experience here on Earth to a video game, because it's almost identical to it. So the majority of self is still at home and has never left. Another way to say that is, you mainly exist in reality. There is only a portion of you existing in illusion. You're coming to realize that this life is that illusion, which at first makes you think, okay, when I find this out, I pretty much die. It feels like dying. And a lot of people misinterpret this and get suicidal or get crazy or get it manifests into problems and troubles. But they're just, again, it's about perception. You're not perceiving what is actually happening. And now what's happening is actually a great thing, because, again, it is allowing you to see that you had become an illusion and a dream, and that the real you, the true you, the consciousness was there the whole time. And so you don't die. You don't need to die. You just need to see. That's all. Because when you see, when you look at the ego through the eyes of the soul, it sits down and gets very humble and very quiet and doesn't want to argue anymore. So all you have to do is look at it. That's all. You don't even have to do anything else. Merely observe it, and it will begin, everything will begin to reassemble or reorder. And then after that, after this awakening, now life is amazingly cool, because all your fears are gone, right? What, are they going to kill your character in the simulation? That wasn't you, that's not you, so what are you worried about? Nothing. Nothing. And if that's the worst thing here, and that is the worst thing, because that's the thing that stumbles every single person here until clarity comes. Right? If you can resolve death while you're still alive, see, a lot of, well, we know that, I'm not even going to go into it. I was going to go into, well, you know, a lot of people think they resolved it by just saying, well, when you die, you're going to be judged and you're going to heaven or hell, and that whole thing. It's the cop-out. It's the easy way of not dealing with it. Because who is the one speaking that? The ego. Is the true self speaking that? Would perception say that? No. The ego would say that. Why? Because it's repeating something it heard. It does not know that. Right? The ego has no authority to try to make such a claim, yet they do it every day. It's just the ego. It's not trustworthy. It has no idea. It has no idea. So I guess that's good for today, friends. Have a great weekend, and this is some wonderful, wonderful stuff to ponder over the weekend. Do yourself a favor. I mean, maybe a lot of you already do, so I'm not preaching to nobody, but if you don't, find a quiet place. Find some solitude. Leave your phone wherever, away from you. And just get as deep into perception as you can. Meditate with the intent, I am going to become so perceptive right now that I'm going to blow my own mind. And you will do that. I promise you, you will. And if you don't at the first time, don't worry about it. Just, everything's practice, right? Practice makes perfect. Love, my friends, love from the heart. It has not been easy for me to open my own heart in this place, meaning this earth plane. It has not been easy. And once you have incurred damage and you suck in and you pull back and you build the walls and you protect and you fortify and you put up your cameras and you have all your guard dogs and you got a moat with alligators and all that around your heart, all of a sudden your heart doesn't really look right. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. What's the deal? What's going on? Right? And so all that is dismantled and we go back to origin, back to fully open, fearless, nothing but love, nothing but fearless love. My phone is overheating, so that is it.